On today's episode of Dear Humans, I give you a closer look on the car accident that had a big impact on my year and honestly my perspective on life and on teaching yoga. There are a couple intense moments, but I promise we come out on the other side. I talk about light and dark. I go a little bit into the Kali Yuga cycle, a field of study and philosophy that I've been interested in. And I reflect on my upcoming retreat in Portugal and what it means to me. I hope you enjoy it, dear humans. Good morning, dear humans. It's nice to be with you. It's been a while since I jumped on and did a solo episode of this podcast. I felt like it was time to come on and just share some reflections that I've been having over the course of this year. And if you've been following along, you know that it's been kind of a challenging year for me. Some ups and downs, and definitely some highs and some lows. So I wanted to share a bit more about my experience and some reflections on what that's meant for me as a yoga teacher and what I'm really thinking about in the yoga practice right now. And I also want to talk a bit about my retreat in Portugal and share with you, what it's been like to plan my very first yoga retreat, some of my anxieties, some of my fears, what I'm looking forward to, why I think it's going to be amazing. If you're interested, let's go ahead and dive in. I want to start with just a bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to talk about a car accident I was in and some of the suffering involved in that. So, if that does not sound like something you need to hear today, then you can save this episode for later. That's totally okay. So, I think I'm going to begin way back in January. And like many people, I like to start the calendar year with intention setting, not picking resolutions, not picking things that I have to be working on, but just reflect on like where have I been and where do I want to go in the year ahead. And as I was thinking about my transition from 2025 into 2026, I was feeling like 2026 was a year where I could be working on my energy within the world, like reflecting on the ways in which I have in the past been somewhat anxious or in my head or self-critical. Like those are some of my go-to emotions. I think it's why I'm drawn to the yoga practice because it helps me deal with some of that. And so this year I was thinking about the idea of a sunbeam and how a sunbeam can warm and light up anything that it touches. And so that was my word of the year, beam. And so I was going into this year with all of this like lightness, this light energy, this idea of casting out sunshine and being a beacon of hope to some extent. So January started off really good. I had the opportunity to go to North Carolina and go and practice with Ben Clara, who is an awesome yoga teacher. You might have seen him online. And I was there with my friend Sydney, who I'm hosting this yoga retreat in Portugal with. And we had just like such a sweet weekend together. We rented this cute little Airbnb, this small yellow house. We were doing yoga every day. We got to know Ben better, which was really fun to feel like this somewhat wide world of yoga teachers online had been connected, had been made smaller. And Sydney and I talked all about the retreat. We planned for it. We were just so giddy with excitement and love and all of that good stuff. And after my visit in North Carolina, I was going to visit my grandmother, who is in her 90s, who lives in Savannah, and then going down to Florida, where my grandfather was hosting my Mimi, who's my step grandmother's memorial service. So I had the feeling that it was going to be kind of an intense end to this trip in the southeast, but I felt proud of myself for going. I was taking the first week off school to attend. I was like, this is where I need to be with my family. And so we're in Florida. We've just arrived and we're going to dinner. And it's my grandfather, my aunt, my mom, and my dad, and myself. And we get into the car, and my grandfather is driving, and he's also in his 90s, but he's a very capable man. He's very with it. And you could tell he was pretty grief stricken, a little bit shaken. But we get into the car, and we're only going 5 minutes down the road, and we turn onto a main street, and my grandfather takes a left, and in his blind spot, he doesn't see that there is a big old pickup truck just barreling down the road. You know, it's like a 35-mile-per-hour zone usually, but people drive so fast right now. He was probably going 60 or more, and he was coming up in the right lane, and it was just like one of those moments where it was this perfect storm of right in my grandfather's blind spot. He wasn't expecting the car in the right lane. He took the turn, and we could see the truck coming for a split second. Like, you could tell that it was gonna hit us. And I just remember looking at the truck, and then turning my head and closing my eyes, and you know, it wasn't even that scary. You're just like, here we go. Like, you just know it's coming. And what happened after that is fairly emotional and intense and traumatic. But at the time, when I was actually in the moment of the accident, I felt very calm. It's like all of your body's amazing defense mechanisms and adrenaline that are just helping you survive, right? So our car was hit. We flipped onto our head. I was in the back middle seat. So I was actually kind of cocooned from a lot of the damage, but my mom and my aunts on either side of me were pretty seriously injured. My dad and my grandfather were like stuck in the warped metal. They had to be like pried out with the jaws of life. I was able to crawl out of the car and stand. And so I was kind of just sitting on the sidelines watching this horror movie play out in front of my eyes and of course it makes me a little emotional, but it's okay. It's all kind of part of it. But yeah, just my family suffering and feeling so helpless, feeling like, oh, I can't do anything to help them. So there has been a fair amount of fallout from the accident, like things that have come after, you know, complexities with the family and the family dynamic, which are just inevitable in families. But all the emotional baggage, all the physical baggage, the trauma of spending so much time in the hospital afterwards, sitting in the ICU with my mom and my aunt who ended up being there for over a week and then ended up being in the hospital for 5 weeks total. So quite a long stay for my aunt. And just a lot of heaviness, a lot of darkness, a lot of fear that came in after the accident. And it's interesting because a lot of people say, or sometimes people say, like, after something like this, like you have a new lease on life, it's like, doesn't it feel good to be alive? And for a while, that was not exactly my experience of it. My experience was a lot heavier. It was almost like all of that lightness that came in, that I was coming into the year with, that idea of the sunbeam, it had all been darkened. And I just went into this kind of pit of darkness. And I'm sorry I told you it would be a little intense. We'll come out of the darkness here in a second. But that was hard. And I think I'm sharing this because we're really good as humans at talking about the light, especially online. We're really good at sharing the joy and the success and the ease. But for most of this year, that's not what I experienced. And yet I have, a persona online. And so I think I was still sharing. I was trying to share some of the dark, but I think I was really still sharing mostly light. I would share darkness, but I would always close with some lesson of the light. Now, I think it's good to find the light. I did do some therapy, which I needed, and I talked to my therapist, and she was talking to me about post-traumatic growth, like the ability to take something that's traumatic and find the lessons, find the meaning. So even when I didn't want to, I could see the small ways in which this accident had illustrated something new or different about the human experience that was worthwhile for me to see. And in that way, it made me feel more connected to the yoga practice than I ever have before. If yoga was at its heart designed as a tool to understand, why do we suffer as human beings? What is the condition of human suffering? And what are the tools for us to transcend that? Then having this acute experience of suffering reminded me of the importance and power of yoga. So going into my teaching after this accident, even though it was hard for me at times to show up in a way that I felt was easy, like easy breezy, it didn't always feel that way. I did allow myself to just kind of lean into that acknowledgement and reminder that being a human is really difficult. And yes, this one experience in my family this year, this acute moment of suffering, that was an intense burst of suffering, but suffering exists in so many ways and forms and shapes for so many different people. And suffering can be big and it can be small, and we'll all experience it in some way at some point in our life. And to some extent, I think we all do experience it day to day. And though I don't think it's super pleasant to talk about this all the time or in every single one of your yoga classes, you don't want it to get too dark. I think there's something relatable and valuable that makes another person feel really seen when they're able to hear that they're not alone in their suffering. I think about what it feels like to be a human, like right now, right in this moment. And I would be lying if I didn't feel like suffering or the heaviness or the darkness in the world, it feels present. Regardless of this accident and the intensity of the start of the year for me, I witness people coming into the studios all the time, right? Like we're yoga teachers. We watch people coming in and coming out. And I ask people, how are you doing? How are you today? And more and more and more, I see people who answer that question and they seem to be carrying a little bit of a darkness with them, a heaviness with them. And this makes me reflect on the idea in yoga that everything that has spirit in our universe, everything that has Persia, that it's all connected. And it feels as if in this moment, the spirit of the collective is dampened. It's heavier. I think we see it on a large scale with what's happening in our world right now, war and political conflict, and it being seemingly more okay for people to say negative things to one another behind a screen, and all the divisiveness, the picking a side, picking a path, making a choice, you're right, you're wrong, right? All of that. So I've been sitting with all of that, like a lot of people I think have been, especially as yoga teachers. And I've been wondering what does yoga teach us about that? What does yoga teach us about this moment of suffering that we find ourselves in? And it's led me to a really fascinating path of study about the yuga cycle. And some of you maybe have heard about the yugas, but the yugas go into Hindu traditions. And the idea is that the yugas are great ages. And I'm not an expert on this by any means. I'm just a novice. I've just started looking into this. So if I make a mistake here, please kindly let me know. But as far as I understand, the yuga cycle, they're great ages. And there are 4 different yuga cycles, and they operate to some extent like a giant clock. And it's the circle that a world goes through. And right now we're in the Kali Yuga, or we've just ended the Kali Yuga. There's a little bit of debate about that. But the Kali Yuga was the period of destruction. It was the period of collapse. And if you look up the attributes for the Kali Yuga, a lot of them are what I just described: divisiveness, spiritual superiority, picking sides, picking tribes, picking paths, anger with people who don't agree with you, this sense of isolation, this sense of mental fatigue and mental dis-ease, environmental collapse and destruction. So all of that is a sign of the Kali Yuga. And after the Kali Yuga, we get to the Golden Age. And these yuga cycles, they work in big swaths of time, thousands and thousands of years. So it's said that in this moment, we're actually in an in-between point from the Kali Yuga to the Golden Age. We're in this transition time. And so that means that for us, as souls on earth, we won't actually get to the Golden Age. Darn. But one of my teachers in town, her name is Joy, she was talking about the beauty of the fact that our souls decided to manifest on earth to be the ushers of this new age, to help the transition from destruction to rebirth. And that means we have to live within kind of the final collapse. But it also means that we can be beacons of hope for the new age. And in the Hindu tradition, the idea is that if you burn away your karma, the karmic baggage that you have collected as a soul, then, and you do your work, your dharma, you follow your path, then when your soul is reborn, it could be reborn into this golden age. And so when I think about the dark and the light, I think that it's not surprising that we're feeling all this darkness, because look at what's going on. But that doesn't mean that there isn't light. And it doesn't mean that there isn't hope. And it doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile to continue to be a beacon of light, to continue to be that sunbeam. Now, easier said than done. And I think whether you feel attracted to that idea of a yuga cycle or you believe something completely different, that's okay. But that balance between light and dark, heaviness and hope, good days and bad days, anxiety and dread and despair, and joy and levity and laughter, no matter what you believe, we all grapple with that. And so what I experienced this year after my accident was the dark had just taken me into its depths. And it was hard. It was hard to get out. And part of the reason that it was hard was because I had started to create a little bit of story in my mind about the way my life was unfolding these months. So even if I was having a good day, if one kind of tiny hiccup happened, if one bad thing happened, it would feed my story that my life was hard and challenging and that everything was bad and dark, and it would kind of catapult me backward into feeling bad again. So it took recognizing that I was caught in this story for me to continue to move toward the light. And it took time. It took time and rest and care. And this is the part that I think is harder, because after the accident, I had a concussion. I smacked my head pretty good. And so my physical symptoms, concussions are kind of funky because they're not visible to the outside, but mentally and emotionally, it made me feel really like foggy and super tired, and it wasn't easy to focus. And it felt like my emotions were all just like right at the surface, just like ready to bubble up and bubble over at any time. And I've always been like a doer, like a go-getter, like let's get things done, let's accomplish it all, let's be good at anything you're doing, let's be a good friend and a good family member and a good wife. And I don't think good is even the right word for this like desire in me. It's like be perfect. I wrote once about the saboteurs. I'll link it in the show notes if you want to look at it. But the idea is that we each have these conditions that sabotage ourselves, especially when they're overdone. And so one is be perfect, one is please others, one is be strong, one is try harder, one is hurry up. But mine is be perfect and please others. And those are hard ones to have, because you can never really be perfect, and you can certainly never be perfect for another person. So Anyways, my concussion and my symptoms, those were at odds with my desire to like do it all and be it all. And at the same time, community was very supportive. Everyone was like, rest, take care of yourself. And I guess what I want to say is I wish I listened a little bit more. And at the same time, it is so hard to stop and take care of yourself in a world that is not designed for pause and for rest. Like from a financial perspective and a work perspective and a school perspective, for me to actually have taken the time that I think I truly needed, I probably would have had to pull out of school, you know? And it's just like that's not the reality. And I was thinking about, if I were to do it all differently, if I were to do the couple months after the accident differently, what would I have done? I guess what I've come to is I could have taken time off. I could have taken the semester off, absolutely. But I don't know if that's really the solution. I think it had much more to do with an idea of like trusting that I could do less and that I could mentally rest and that everything would still be okay. I want to take a really quick break and tell you a little bit about my favorite skincare company, Osea Malibu. I partner with Osea because I believe in their values and I believe in their product. I use their body oil literally twice a day. I am working my way through the bottle, but it lasts for a long time and it smells amazing, and I think you'll love it too. I'm going to put a link to Osea in the show notes, and you can use the code YH10 for 10% off. And this is nuanced, right? But it seems really important to me in our modern day. It's the idea that rest we typically think of as like stay home, hang out on the couch, watch TV. But you can only do that for so long before that starts to get draining as well. And you can be, laying in your bed, but you're not at rest. So, this idea of rest as a mental space, a mental state, and rest no matter where you are. And when I think about what that looks like, I think about the ability to like relax your body in any moment in the day-to-day living. Relax your muscles, stop clenching, stop holding, and soften your mind. Like, let all of those swimming, swirling thoughts, let them go, right? Easy. But that's, again, where I think the yoga practice comes in. Like, that is what we're teaching people. We are teaching people to be at rest and at ease, even within their complex and challenging day-to-day lives. If we do nothing else as yoga teachers than offering that, like what a gift. And for ourselves too. If we do nothing else but that, what a gift for ourselves. So, where am I now? I will say that I'm feeling a lot better. My family is doing good. My mom actually just, my mom's an amazing woman. Her and my dad just started their Grand Canyon trip. So they're rafting down the Grand Canyon, which means they're out of service, out of range for over 2 weeks, which having this accident in the background, it's kind of like, oh, mom, Be careful. Um, and it was a journey for her to get to a place where she felt like good and comfortable to do this. But it's been a lifelong dream for them, a bucket list moment, and they wanted to do it and they wanted to face the fear of it. And how amazing to not let fear hold you back. And that's the tricky thing about something like an accident or loss or whatever it is that we've experienced and will experience is I think it has the power to really pull you inward, pull you into the dark, hold you back, hold you in, because the rose-colored glasses come off and you realize like, oh yeah, life is random and anything could happen at any time. But that's just as true if you're sitting in your house, staying in, as it is if you're out in the world, with exceptions, you know, being cautious and careful and smart about things, of course. So where am I now? That's where I was going. Feeling better, doing better, thinking about the things in my life that come with ease, but more importantly, thinking about the things in my life that become hard because I make them hard in my mind. Working on not letting my mind have so much power over my life and over my emotions and over my choices. And feeling really grateful to be a yoga teacher and to be able to hold space for the human experience, the human condition. I don't take that job lightly because I know for myself, the yoga studio is a place of comfort that is so important in hard times. And after this accident, I wasn't able to do asana for a long time. I couldn't invert, which made like a public yoga class pretty challenging. But man, did I feel lucky when I finally came back into the studio. So not taking the studio for granted, not taking moving the body for granted, and also being intuitive with our movement. I don't think my practice is like quite back to where it was. I've taken so much time off. And for a couple weeks, I was doing a rocket yoga challenge, just like a personal one. And then I realized after doing it for like a week and a half that this actually was like too intense for my body and it wasn't really serving me. So I'm rethinking my personal challenge. But that's okay, right? It's like we're allowed to change. We're allowed to do what we want to do as long as it's ultimately serving our wellness and our spirit and our light. So when I look ahead, I'm thinking about a summer that is really full and beautiful with a lot of amazing things. And I just this morning booked my plane ticket to Portugal. And I think many of you who are listening know that I'm hosting a yoga retreat in Portugal the first week of August with my dear friend, Sydney McCowan. She is so lovely. She has such a light, gentle, warm, inviting, amazing teacher presence. She's so sweet and fun and bubbly. I feel like you would all love her. Go find her online. She's just awesome. She's just a good soul, good person. And so we've been planning this retreat, and it is called Intuitive Return. Intuitive Return. And the idea is that we can get so drawn away from our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, our inner voice, from that quieter place within, from the spirit or the spark that connects us. our modern life like pulls us in so many directions away from that place. And a retreat like this, a week like this, it's really intended to slowly draw you back to that place within, draw you back to who you really are and who you want to be. And I just, like I'm leading the retreat. Obviously, I'm biased, but I just have a feeling about this one that it's going to be incredible. And we already have, I think we have 19 people signed up. We can take a couple more. It's in like the rolling hills of northern Portugal. And the retreat center that we're staying at, they are like super dialed in. They've been doing this for many years. The rooms are really beautiful. The food is amazing. The beautiful yoga studio right in the trees. There's a river running through the property. There's a pool. We're trying to make it really intentionally balanced on like yoga and workshop, ceremony and circle, but also giving like intentional space for those moments where you're like, oh, I'm going on a retreat. Like, I hope I can just like decompress, read my book, work on an art project. Carving out times where you can really do that and doing some silent times too. So designating some hours where people aren't allowed to talk. So if you're an extrovert and you love to talk and like sometimes you wish you could be quieter, it will give you the structure. And if you're an introvert and you're like, oh, I don't want anyone to talk to me, it will give you that structure. But retreats are so bonding. Like we will just get to know each other. We will get to love each other. So if you're feeling called, I want to acknowledge that it's kind of a weird time in our world right now. Like with everything feeling so unsettled and prices high and the price of plane tickets are higher than usual. I understand looking at like the numbers and the cost of a retreat like this and being like, ooh, I don't know. And if that's you and you're like, I really want to come, then send me an email and we'll see if we can work out some kind of something that would make it feel more feasible. Because I believe if you're like, I want to be there, I feel like I need to be there, then we'll see what we can do to get you there. And I guess the other thing I want to say is I think people are holding on to this sense of fear of like what comes next. I don't want to make big moves or big commitments or like take this chance on this retreat because we don't know what the future holds. And that's so true. We don't know what the future holds. But we do know what's right now, what's right in front of us. And maybe it's worth it to take this chance right now. Because, yeah, we don't know what a year looks like, what a couple years look like. But a couple months from now, we have a pretty good idea. Kind of. I don't know. So, my friends, I guess this episode is just to tell you I've been feeling it all. It's been a weird, hard, strange year. And if you've been feeling that, you are not alone. Far from it. This is the human side of yoga humans, right? It's like the no frills, no filters, just like raw, messy, human tenderness. It's hard to be tender in a world that's hard. I was reading The Heart of Yoga the other day, and Desikachar in it has a line somewhere of like, the more you see the world, the harder it is. Like, the more clearly you see the suffering, the more you have to suffer as well to some extent. Because once you see, you can't unsee. And so some people go through the world with kind of blinders on. And in a way, that's easier to just be numb to the emotions of the world. But it is far deeper and more meaningful to see it and to feel it and to choose to continue to carry that light and carry that hope, even in the darkness. So I'm going to keep being a beam of warmth and light when I can. And part of that is acknowledging that I can't always. Part of that is sharing the darkness because we never hold it alone. Dear humans, thank you so much for listening and for joining me today. This was a spiraling conversation, as is life, and I really appreciate you sitting with me through it. If you want to learn more about my Portugal retreat, then I have linked it in the show notes. And as always, I'm so appreciative of you following along and supporting this space. I hope you have a beautiful day, dear humans.